In this video, we're going to be looking at how to create a medieval street scene in Unreal Engine 5 using the modeling tools and Quixel MegaScans. So I've just started Unreal Engine here and selected the third person template. If you've done the same, this is probably what you're seeing. I'm going to press File, New Level, Basic, and hit Create. This gives us a blank empty canvas to work with and also sets up the sun and sky for us. Now I'm going to press Control Space and Dock and Layout. This is going to give me my content browser. I'm going to go over to Characters, Mannequins, Meshes, and just drag this skeletal mesh Quinn and place it in the scene. This is going to give us a good height reference and also a scale reference when we place various objects in the scene, just to make sure they are all scaled properly or they are not too big or too small. The first thing I'm going to do is start working on the walls. So I'm going to go over to modeling, click on box, and you can see when you make any changes over here in the depth and the width, you can see the changes in real time. I'm going to use 6500 for the depth, 1500 for the height, and then just click once and then click complete. This is going to place this large sort of wall here for us. Now for the road, I'm going to use a rectangle, set it to a width of 1000 and a depth of 6500. That way it's the same length as our walls. Again, just click once and then click complete, and then you can use the move, scale, and rotate, well rather just the move tool, to position this where you want it to be. In our case, I'm just going to have it align with the wall like so, and then just to make a copy of the wall, I can Alt and drag to make a copy of the wall like this. For the piece that's going to be closing off this alleyway, I'm just going to click on box, reset this, use 1500 by 1500, and just click here again once and then complete, and then we can slide this in here like so, and then just block it off at the edge here. Just make sure it's more or less in the center. And with that, we've got our core structure complete. Now we can start working on the other things. The next thing I'm going to do, I was going to say second, the next thing I'm going to do is place my camera. There's two ways you can do this in Unreal. Method number one is you can press this quickly add to project button, place actors panel, and you can search for camera. Get a range of options here that you can drag and place in your scene. But I like to kind of navigate to where I want the camera to be, and then I can click on this hamburger menu, go to create camera here, and then you can choose camera actor or cine camera actor. In our case, I'm going to be using the cine camera actor because I do want to change the lens on this. By default, this comes with a universal zoom lens on it. I'm going to change this to a 50 millimeter. And then I'm just going to pin this here so I can see as I move my camera. If you don't do this, when you click off your camera, you kind of lose that that view, the camera view there. So I think I want this to be a little closer. So maybe let's go with something like let's see. So maybe something like here. Something like here. Let's see what that looks like. So we've got our wall. I'm going to reduce my camera speed a little bit, just and kind of position this in the center of our alleyway, maybe looking upwards there, so we can get some sort of floor also in our scene. The next thing we're going to do is, let me increase my camera speed and unpin this. Well, no longer pin this. We're going to kind of assign some textures to our wall. So I'm going to go over to Window, Quixel Bridge, and any MegaScan that I use, or any surface that I use, I'm going to mention the name so that if you are following along, you can do the same. So we're going to go over to Damaged Brick Wall Plastered. I'm just going to export this and just give it a second. Okay, and when you export a MegaScan, it's going to create a folder for you in Content MegaScans, and you can see surfaces here. So here we have Damaged Brick Wall Plastered. I'm just going to drag this sphere icon over to our two walls, and then you can see the walls get assigned over here. Now, of course, this texture is looking quite large, so I can double click on this, which will bring up the material instance settings, and then you just want to check tiling and offset, and then unfold this, and then you can increase these numbers to increase the amount of times this texture tiles. So I can go with 4 and 4, looking a little better, maybe 6 and 6, Maybe let's just go with 5 and 5. That was looking somewhat okay. No, let's go with 6 and 6 and then maybe offset this a little bit. So the plaster starts somewhat here. Okay, so we have something like this. Now we can't use the same texture on the closing wall there because, oops, I've gone too far out. Because the problem is that that closing wall is smaller than our two walls on the left and right. So you can remedy this by right clicking, going to duplicate, and then you just want to maybe give an underscore back wall and then rename this one as well. Press F2 to side walls. So then we're using this on the back wall. That way when we change tiling on this, it doesn't affect the side walls. So I'm just going to eyeball this here. Let's go with 2 and 2. I think 1.5 and 1.5. It's looking a little better. And then we're just going to again try to align this plaster over here. So something like maybe this. I think it's actually 1.4 and 1.4. Something like this would work. Okay, so we have something that's more or less the same. Doesn't have to be identical, doesn't have to be perfect, where the emphasis of this tutorial is on speed versus, again, another masterclass in environment design. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to carve out walkways here for people to enter and exit this street. So for that, what I'm going to do is go into modeling mode, drop in a cube. Let's just reset these settings and just put a cube next to our mannequin over here, which is why I like using the mannequin. It's a good height reference. So I can go into poly edit and then just kind of scale this up. And then let's maybe just put this in the center of our mannequin. We want the archway to be wide enough for maybe 2 people to pass through. Maybe it can be narrow depending on what you're going for. So I think this is okay. And then again, poly edit. I'm just going to stretch this out so that I can use this to cut a hole or carve out this shape from this mesh. You just want to make sure that it's going all the way through. Now, let's go back into our camera and see exactly where we want this doorway to be. So I like that. I maybe might move it a little closer, maybe something like this. Let's go with -50. And then let's make another one. So Alt and drag. Now you can do this in 2 ways. You can either rotate it 180, or you can just do edit, right click. So I'm right clicking on this, transform, mirror Y, and that's going to be the second wall here. Maybe let's just move this a little bit into, so maybe something like this. See what that looks like. So we have 2 obvious entry and exit points here. I'm also going to make a third one, which is going to be kind of in the thirds over here. So maybe like here. So we'll have one archway there and then 2 over here. Now to cut a hole in the mesh, I'm just going to go back into modeling mode. Let's close our content browser. Select the mesh, the wall mesh first, and then shift select the cutter object and then click on mesh bool. This is going to do an A-B, and this is what you get. Now, if you want this material being used on the inside as well, you can just make sure that you have use first mesh materials check. That will basically also put the material on the inside. Don't worry too much about the styling issue here. We'll cover this up with other MegaScans. But let's just repeat the process on all 3 of our walls. And I'm just going to go back here, do the same. And we've got these 3 walls now that have been cut. Okay, so this is what we've got. Let's maybe just move our camera a little bit to the right here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to now try and cover these hard edges up with MegaScan. So we're going to go over to bridge and export this wooden post. Just give it a second. Okay, so we've got our wooden post over here. I'm going to exit modeling mode and let's just drag this wooden post over here. I'm going to scale it up. You can use the shortcut key R, but I'm going to scale this up a little bit, maybe like that. And then kind of just place it. Let's put snapping off and just kind of place it just in front of the wall here. So like this. Then we can Alt and drag to make a copy. Let's rotate this over so that they look a little bit different, so they don't look identical. And do the same with this side as well. So just kind of place it like there. For the upper piece, for that hard edge over here, I'm going to go to bridge and get this worn wooden beam. Just give it a second to export. Okay, so again, content, MegaScans, 3D assets, worn wooden beam, and just drag this over here. Let's rotate it and kind of just place it. If you feel the camera speed is too fast, you can slow it down. So I'm just going to leave it at 3 for now. Like this, move it up here, and then just kind of position it above, just like so. And then what we can also do is make a copy of this and rotate it just to break a little bit of that symmetry. So something like this is what we have. Okay, and this is what it looks like in the camera. So you can see it. We have this sort of archway over here. Just going to make sure it is with, yeah, it's touching the ground. Okay, so shift select all of them, and again alt and drag. You can either do a flip or you can rotate it, and then let's place it against this wall like so. And then in Unreal Engine, if you want to lock your camera while you move an object, so just get in position. Before you move, hold shift and drag. That's going to lock your camera as you move objects. Just makes things easier when positioning things with your objects. So let's just put it maybe here, and we get something like this. Okay, and maybe for this one, I'll just pull this out a little bit like so, just to make it seem like it's not flush with the wall. Also a little bit different. Now the next thing we're going to do is work on this archway back here. So for this archway back here, I'm going to use this mossy chapel arch asset. So let's export that, give it a second. And again, MegaScans 3D assets, mossy chapel arch. I'm just going to drag and drop this asset in here. Let's rotate it like so. It feels a little small, so I'm just going to lock scale here and increase this to 1.5. And then the objective here is that we're just going to put it so that it's just above, that it's sticking out of the wall. There's some protrusion here. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to cover up those edges as best as I can. You can see something like this. Maybe we need to go a little smaller, so 1.4. Maybe pull this out a little bit. Okay, so we've covered up those edges. So this is what we have right now. We have two of these side archways, and we have that archway down here. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create some sort of staircase here for an elevated platform. For that, I'm going to use this castle stairs asset. Okay, let's just give it a second to export. Okay, and then MegaScans, 3D assets, we have our castle stairs. I'm just going to drag and drop it in here, rotate it 90, and then just put it up against the wall here, like so. And then regarding this blending into the ground, you can choose where you want this to be. I think this is fine for now, and then we can just place this a little bit of a distance from the doorway. So if people are walking out here, they can then take the stairs and go up. For the surface of this area, I'm going to use this street cobblestone asset. And again, I'm saying these assets so that you can see how quickly you can find some assets that you like and then quickly mock up a scene and create something using these MegaScans. So we're going to go street cobblestone, put this in here. Let's rotate this, move it up here, and then let's take the scale down, maybe 0.8. Let's put that in there. I think it's a little large, so maybe 0.7. And maybe we can kind of align these two up like this, something like this, right? So they're aligned here. Then what I can do is I can just simply alt and drag copies out all the way through. So alt and drag, alt and drag. right? Something like this. So what does it look like now? Again, going back into our cine camera actor, this is what we've got. Little stairs going up here. I am going to create an archway up here because it currently doesn't look like it's going into anything. So we are just going to take this archway asset here, alt and drag, and then rotate it 180. And then let's maybe move this up here, make this a little smaller. It feels a little big now, so let's do 1.25 and let's place it maybe over here. So something like this. Okay, so a little archway over here. So this is what it looks like now. There's there's a place for people to go, maybe a sort of tunnel over there. Now the next thing we're going to do is we need to create some sort of geometry above this, kind of like a tower. So for that, I'm going to go back into modeling, click on box, place the box here, hit complete, move the box over kind of where you'd want this to be. So something like this, and then go into poly edit and click on this face, drag it all the way up. We're holding the red line there to constrain it to the x-axis. So just push it again up here. And then I can increase this in height. So something like this. Now, if I pull this all the way out here, this is going to block the archway. I'm going to get this sort of effect. I don't want that. So to avoid that, I'm going to add an edge loop over here. Click done, click on this face, and then click on extrude. And then just make sure when you're extruding, just move the mouse over to this wall here, which will snap it to the wall. So we have something like this now. Okay. Now, if we were to assign a MegaScan texture to this, we can see that the squares, the grid on it is not neatly arranged, which means it hasn't been unwrapped. So you can do that in your modeling toolkit by going down to UVs and clicking unwrap. This will unwrap it for you. You can change these settings over here. So for example, repack, you can go normalize to bounds or whatever. Find something that works for you, and then you can go with that. So I'm just going to try the default settings to see what we get. So I've unwrapped it, and then I'm going to go to bridge and grab this castle wall surface over here. Let's give it a second. So MegaScan surfaces castle wall, and just drag and drop that on there. This is what we're getting. So I'm just going to double click on this. I do believe we need to rotate it because the stones are facing downwards. So I'm going to click on rotation angle 0.25, and this is what we get. Now we can just increase the tiling here. So maybe 5 and 5. I'm trying to basically match the size of these stones over here. So let's see what we can do. 8 and 8. It's looking a little better. 8 and 8 over here. So I think I'll stick with 8 and 8 for now. These are looking a little larger, so maybe 10 and 10. Yeah, more or less the same. We can go with that for now. Now you may get this issue where the textures are getting blurred. If that's happening, all you have to do in Unreal is go over to project settings, and over here search for streaming, and there'll be a setting here called texture streaming. Just uncheck that and close your project settings. That'll remedy that for you. Okay, so we have this now, and we obviously have some edges here. Let's see what that looks like in our camera. This is what it looks like. We have some obvious, really bad edges over here. The materials are also looking a little different. So we can use this wooden beam to kind of hide that. So I'm going to scale this wooden beam up to 1.5. Let's move it over here and just kind of place this like this, and then rotate this over maybe above it over here, just to kind of break those obvious areas where there's issues with the models being close to one another. Okay, so we have this. Now we can just kind of scale this out here to make it look like a structural element. And once we have this up and running, this is what it looks like. I don't like that that weird edge there, so maybe I'll rotate it over. So it'll be something like this. Do the same here. Okay, and then we can just alt and drag, make a copy of this here, and maybe we can even push this guy all the way through. Same with this. like so. Excuse the crow in the background. And then I'm just going to Alt and drag rotate this like this. Like so, and then Alt and rotate to make a copy, Alt and drag to create some more structural elements, Alt and drag to create some more structural elements like this. So maybe let's move this over here. Okay, so what does this look like right now in our camera? If you go over to the cameras, we're getting this. You can see this is looking a little bit more convincing than what we had earlier with the bad edges over there. I'm going to maybe try to center this X, keep it in the center over there, and something like this. Okay, so only thing I'm going to fix here is maybe I'll move this a little bit inwards, just to give some depth to the wood, like this maybe. And so the result is this is what we get. Now the next thing we're going to work on is start fixing the flow. So I'm going to go over to bridge, get this cobblestone texture over here, the surface, and we're going to apply that to our floor. So I'm just taking the cobblestone texture and I throw it on the floor. Then you can see, of course, the scaling and tiling is an issue. So I'm going to double click on this, click on tiling, and then let's go with 4 and 4. Nope, not enough. Let's go with 8 and 8. Okay, I guess that'll work. If you want the stones to be smaller, you can increase the tiling, but we leave it at that for now. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do, I was about to say first, the next thing we're going to do is this ground is looking a little flat. So what I can do is I can use this cobblestone asset that we got. Now this is curved. This is a photo scan, so this is curved. I can make full use of this and kind of scale this up like so. And then what I can do is I can just kind of sink this into the ground here. So we get something like this. And so if I go back to my scene, maybe let's raise the camera a little bit so we can see this sort of pathway over here. And this is what we're getting right now. So maybe move this a little back and just frame it a little better, I guess. So something like this, maybe even, yeah, I guess that's okay. So this is what we're getting. This is what we're dealing with right now. I'm going to maybe scale this up a little bit because I don't like those that weird edge on the side there. So yeah, something like this. Maybe we can even move our main talent over here. Maybe this person is walking towards something. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to start populating this place with some MegaScans. So I'm going to go over and get this chopped wood pile. Again, export, just give it a second to export. Okay, so MegaScans, 3D assets, chopped wood pile. Now in this one, I don't know why the MegaScan shows up with so many of these static meshes. You can actually use this search bar here to filter. So I can say vertices over 100. That gives me the right one that I need. So just a way of finding this particular asset because so many of them show up. So maybe we can use 2 here. And then if you don't like this ground, because it is a scan, so you can just kind of sink it into the ground and you get some free debris along with this as well. So maybe something like this. Let's rotate it a little bit over like this, and then maybe we can make a copy of this, rotate it like so. So we've got 2 of these, and then let's also push this a little bit into the ground so it looks something like this. Once that's done, the next step is we need to create some sort of shop here. Because this is, I want to, maybe this is a lumberjack or somebody that sells wood. So we're going to use this palisade spike asset to create the sort of borders around the store. And then we're going to also hopefully get time to decorate it. So I'm going to go to the spike, put it next to my human character, see how big it is. It is a little small, so maybe let's go with a scale of 3 here. Rotate it. And then let's bring it over. So maybe here, something like this. Let's maybe move that wooden piece back a little bit. So over here, what I'm going to do is I don't have an idea right now of what the exact shape is going to be. So we'll just go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I'm just going to get a copy of the mannequin just so I can see if someone was to be working in the store, would the store be big enough for them? So I think that's kind of okay. Maybe we could have it just this deep in terms of the area for the store, and then we can alt and drag these over here. So this becomes the shop for the wood. I'm just going to alt and drag, reset the rotation and make this a scale value of 2. And then this is going to be the reference for the roof. So if the roofing was like this, let's see what that looks like. Again, you can see this is why I highly recommend putting a mannequin in your scene, because you get a good reference for things like scale. So I think this is high enough for a store. Now we can use this to kind of position these wooden pieces where they need to be. And then maybe move one out here. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to rotate these wooden pieces a little bit, maybe even make copies of them. Just put them closer to one another. Something like this. And then we can just rotate them. So rotate, 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 rotate. Just try to break symmetry as much as you can with the assets being used. Okay, something like this. And then we can go ahead and delete these over here. Then I'm going to just grab all of these. So shift selecting them and then just alt and drag. So we have another set here. And then I'm just going to use this middle spike to create the roofing. You can see Lumen working so well there. So once the roofing is done, I'm going to alt and drag, reset this, bring it over here, and then I'm just going to use this to create kind of this horizontal bar above this, like this. So shift select both of them, then I can move this over here. Maybe I need to fix the spacing of this a little bit. And then alt and drag, we'll put one more over here. Oops. Alt and drag, put one more over here. And then alt and drag, put one at the back here. So you can see very quickly using just one asset, we can put together something interesting like this. And then you can, of course, offset this and choose different assets to make it look a little bit more natural. But we've built a really interesting sort of store here that we can then work with, right? So we've got this store asset over here. Now, the next thing we're going to do is let's also add some sort of straw on top of this, but we'll do that towards the end of the video. Right now, I want to focus on quickly populating this with as many assets as we can. Not too many different assets, but using the same ones again and again. So, oops, I had the ground selected there. So alt and drag, let's maybe put someone's houses or a doorway over here as well. Okay. And with that done, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go over to bridge and get some supporting assets. So I'm going to actually get the barrels first. So we'll get some barrels and place them all over our scene. And then we will approach the lighting and also some of this, how to use this, these grassy assets to build a roof for this. So let's go over to wooden barrel. Okay, maybe put some barrels over here next to the entrance. Oops. Okay, so maybe just one there for now, maybe just two. And rotate them to make them seem all unique. So we just have a few barrels over there. And then what we can also do is maybe place some barrels over here. So Alt and drag, copy, copy, and then maybe just a few down here. Let's rotate these all around, and you can also change the barrel asset you're using. I'm just trying to focus as much as I can on the speed of this, but the amount of time that you spend on this will of course define the detail that you get into this. In some assets I feel this is a little empty, so maybe the lumberjack, when he's finished preparing wood pieces for the empire or for the kingdom, he puts them here. So we can maybe just go over to local. Let's rotate some pieces, 3 or 4 different pieces. Okay, and then Alt and drag, create some variants here. And then let's Alt and drag. Okay, and then maybe we'll do one last one. Over here. Okay, let's see what that looks like. So now you can see our environment is getting a little bit more dense. So let's go to global and maybe break. These barrels are looking too neatly aligned. So we just maybe offset them a little bit. Just a little bit like this to make them look a little bit more natural. Now, one more problem you may run into is that if you notice that whenever you're on your camera, you accidentally move the camera. If you want to lock your camera, let's say we're happy with this frame, we don't want to change it anymore. You can eject your camera, click on your camera, right click, go to transform and say locked active movement. Now, whenever you're in your camera, you can't make any accidental changes. This may be a problem where you've forgotten that you're inside the camera and then you've gone and you're flying around the level and then you're like, oh god, I've moved my camera from what I wanted it to be. So you can also do that, and maybe let's delete some of these up here just to kind of show more of our doorway. Okay, something like that. Okay, next what we're going to do is again use a few more assets. I'm going to take this wooden wheelbarrow and place it in the scene, and then maybe we'll put maybe a bench or a table, and then we'll get into lighting. So again, wooden wheelbarrow. Let's go here. 1.5, make it a little larger. The reason I made it larger was because a small wheelbarrow doesn't make sense to be carting all this wood. I do also feel the wheel is up in the air, so let's remove rotation and just kind of push it up against this asset over here, maybe like here. Then let's go get some tables. We'll export this dirty wooden table. Okay, so 3D assets, dirty wooden table. Let's put the table here, rotate it over. I'm going to put snapping back on, rotate it over. Okay, so maybe one table outside here and then one table that's kind of bent, kind of like this. And again, I'm using that human to check height reference. Let's also get some chairs. So this wooden stool asset. Just give it a second. So wooden stool. Put this in here. The stool's a little small, so maybe let's go 1.5 on this. So one stool back here, and then maybe one more out here for any customers that want to have a chat with our lumberjack, and then maybe one inside here. too even. Let's maybe offset it. Let's also grab maybe an anvil. So maybe this is not a lumberjack. Maybe he also makes weapons. Let's grab this blacksmith anvil, and then I'm going to go to 3D assets, blacksmith anvil, and place it in there. That feels a little small, so maybe let's go 2x on the scale. Ooh, that's too big. Again, one of the great things about a height reference. So let's go and place this maybe in here. So we've got some assets now. And then finally, I just think we'll try and use one more asset. I'm going to go with, let's see, maybe this bench for people to sit and have a discussion on the sides of the alleyway. So let's go 3D assets. Where is it? Where is the bench? Wooden. What's it called? It's called old wooden bench. Okay, so old wooden bench. Drag and drop this in here. Let's rotate it. And then maybe one of these could be here. For people that are tired of walking and want to rest a bit. And then let's alt and drag. Put this over here. Okay, so with that done, the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to fix one problem in our scene, which is the area underneath here. And after that's done, excuse me, we're going to get into lighting and how to improve the lighting in the scene. So to fix this issue over here, we're going to go back to the modeling toolkit, put a box down here, hit complete. And this is why I like the modeling toolkit a lot, because the modeling tools a lot is because you can use it to create geometry that otherwise isn't present in the scene, custom geometry. So I'm going to click on this face over here. Let's just close our content browser. Click on this face, make it a little narrow, something like this. In fact, let's approach this in a different way. Let's bring this over here because I remember that this thing has a notch in it. So we can use that instead. So I'm just going to put my cube here, go to poly edge, pull this all the way up, and then I'm just going to try and line it up with this so that it feels like it's part of this. So I'm going to just push this in here. Oops, not the edge, the face. Just push it in here and then just drag this all the way back to the rear wall. Then what I'm going to do next is I am going to click on the face here and then just kind of stretch this out to where it's touching the beginning of the stairs. And then I'm going to press extrude so I can get some more geometry out of this. And let's extrude it all the way to the beginning of the stairs over here. Click accept, go to poly edit, and then click on just this edge over here. Let's pull this all the way down. And you can see already that's looking a little better. We can click on these two faces. So shift select these two faces and then just kind of push them in. And yeah, we get some sort of geometry here that's kind of making sense now. I am also going to probably grab this edge over here. Selecting this might be a little bit annoying sometimes, so just be patient with it. And then just maybe pull this in like here. Now, if you want this to curve better, you can leave this as it is, but you can also go ahead and add some edge loops over here and then individually move those edges down. But that isn't the focus of what we're doing here. So what I'm going to do next is, as you can see, the cubes, the textures not unwrap properly. So we're just going to do a quick unwrap on this. And you can see here, there's different resolutions. So I'm just going to say island merging, which will will give us a better result. But we'll hit accept, and then I'm just going to use, let's just go with maybe this Roman stone wall over here. Export that, drag and drop that on the asset. The tiling is wrong again. So what we can do is we can double click on this and go over to 0.25. Just scale that a little better, and then 4 and 4. Maybe 8 and 8. Let me exit modeling mode so I can see things better. Okay, let's do 12 and 12. It's looking a little better, but the tiling is, I mean, it's okay. it works for now. It's a quick piece. So something like this. Maybe let's just line it up with the ground there. Okay, so we filled up the edges over here, and now the last thing we need to work on a little bit is this place where it meets the floor, because you can see there's obvious texture errors over here. So what we can do here is we can get this where is it, this castle wall asset, and go over to content, MegaScans, 3D assets, and then castle wall. Let's put this in there, and then we can use this to kind of mask that edge. Something like this, and then alt and drag. Okay, and then alt and drag, alt and rotate. We can also use this to kind of create something here that kind of breaks that edge, and then we can take this all the way through. And if you even want, what you can do is you can alt and copy this and use these as kind of ways to hide that that side of the staircase. So something like this maybe. Let's use this to create some sort of geometry here. And then up here we can go back to what its original configuration was. Maybe pull this out also a little bit here. Okay, so something like this, and then you can fill it up underneath here by adding more bits and pieces. But yeah, something like this. It's quite messy right now because I'm not trying to focus too much on getting this 100%, just something that would hide that edge. And like I said, even with this one, you can kind of copy this over and kind of have it protrude out here, something like this. You can have a look at what that looks like in your camera. So let's move our actor over. So let's hide this actor. In fact, this is what we're getting. If you do feel it's looking a little similar, you can push and pull these bricks in or rotate them, whatever works for you. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is we fixed this. We've added some sort of assets here, and then we can maybe even, let's move some of these barrels over. You can press the N key to, snap it to the ground. So maybe let's place some barrels over here also, because I don't like the way this this asset is looking so repeated. So maybe we can have some barrels over here. Alt and drag, put it up here, something like this. Maybe one of them is sticking out here. Then of course rotate them a little bit, just to make them all seem different so they don't all look the same. And in about what time are we at? About 43 minutes we've put together something that has a lot going on, at least just using a few assets. We've built a little shed here, we've put some stuff in there. So I wanted to talk a little bit about how to place some sort of grass above this shed. Now there's one way you can do this. If you download this dead broom brush asset, you can individually place each of these static meshes on the roof if you want more control over it. So when you download this particular asset, this dead broom bush, each of these are static meshes, so you can drag each one and then rotate it, scale it, so something like 3, and you can go and place these over here. But if you want an easier way of doing this and a more rough, so to speak, way of doing this, you can use foliage for it. Now to do that, I'm going to go over to foliage, and you may get foliage in here, you may not get foliage in here. I'm going to assume there's no foliage in here. So I'm just going to navigate over to the 3D plants. So MegaScans, 3D plants, dead broom and there's a foliage folder. So just drag the big ones, or in my case, I've just used these three. Select all three. We want to change the scale, so somewhere between 2 and 3. And then you want to change the density up to 500. Then what you can do is when you go to click on the paint icon, you just want to paint. In fact, I can't do this with the chair and that in the way. So we're just going to go and hide, click on our table, hide our table, and then click on the chair and then also hide the chair. Go back to foliage mode. And I'm then going to just paint a line of foliage over here. So click and drag. This is going to paint a line of plants or brushes or bushes or whatever. So just paint a line here like this. And then what you want to do is click on lasso. I don't know what it's called. I'm just going to call it whatever I've heard it being called. Click on this and then you can just use this. So just rotate it down. And then you've got this sort of grassy patch that you can use, that maybe the person whose shop this is uses it to protect himself. Alt and drag, same shortcuts again. You want to increase the height, you can rotate it to add some randomness to it. So click and drag again, rotate it some more to add some randomness, and then click and drag, alt and drag again, same shortcut, rotate it to add some randomness. For the side here, if you want, you can use the same technique. So paint a line, so line of plants like this, and then all you want to do is maybe make that a little longer. Again, select all of them, just make sure you have none selected. So I'm just going to click out here, select all of these, go over to select, move them up, rotate them so they're pointed downwards, they're kind of slumping, and then we can just go and kind of place this over here to fill up that side as well. And the result is you get some sort of this sort of grassy roof over here, and we can even see what that looks like in our camera. So this is what it looks like. And the last thing we're going to do, the last two things we're going to do is, of course, we're going to tackle the lighting of this scene. Still looks very sunny. If you're going for like an evening nighttime scene, I'm going to talk a little bit about that. So I'm going to use Control L to move the sun over someplace here. And then to get this overcast sort of look, let's exit foliage mode. I'm going to go over, let's put our chair back. It's off right now, but I'm going to click on my sky atmosphere. And inside the sky atmosphere, you can go over to, just scroll down over to MIE scattering scale. I'm just going to use 1.5 here. What that's going to do is it's going to give it this overcast sky sort of look, and we get a much more dim environment. But even now, Unreal Engine by default is going to be using auto exposure. So we need to fix that because you can see if the exposure is kind of shifting as I come in. So to do that, we'll go over to Place Actors panel, search for Post Process Volume, drag and place that anywhere in your scene. With that volume selected, scroll all the way down to where you see Infinite Extent. You can also search for this over here. Make sure that's checked so that now any post-processing we do affects the entire scene. So I'm going to go back into my camera now, and within my camera, what I'm going to do is go over to exposure and switch this over to manual. And then your scene's going to go black. That's okay. We just need to click on the exposure compensation. Let's try 10, 11, 12. So maybe this is okay. Maybe I'll go darker in a bit, but I do want the sky to be a little blue. It still looks like an overcast day. So I'm going to grab my directional light, and I'm going to change this light color to something that's a little bit more evening-ish. Be something like this dim. So we have this nighttime evening environment over here. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to add some lights to our scene. It looks pretty dark right now, rainy evening. So I'm going to go over to lights, rect light, and put a rectangular light in here. Maybe this is the candle light coming in from one of these two entry exit points here. So let's just move it up. I'm going to increase the source height a little bit, and then just make the barn door angle 0. For the brightness of the light, let's go with maybe 20 or 22. Let's go 20. And for the color, I'm just going to remove all the blue and go half on the green to get this sort of orange illumination. You can see that's what it looks like. So let's do another one. And let's go over here. So this is what we have now. It looks really like an evening scene. So let's go see what that looks like in our camera. So this is what we have now. I think what I'm going to do is I am going to click on my wheelbarrow and maybe move this wheelbarrow just a little bit forward here so it catches some of the light coming out of that. Well, that looks kind of interesting. Maybe even move the wood logs over here. And then maybe we could even put one of these up against the wall here so we could catch some of that light. Again, not needed. This is completely up to you if you want to do it. But maybe something like this, just so we can show more detail in our scene, like so. Now, some of the other improvements you can do to the scene is you can add a few more lights as well. There's an asset I'm going to link to in the description. I've modeled a very, very basic lantern. So I'm just going to go to content, right click, import to game, and just go to my desktop and lantern. Reset to default, import all, and this is what the lantern is. It's not scaled properly, so maybe when I put it up on wherever I'm hosting it, I'll scale it properly, but this is what it looks like. So with the lantern, what you're going to want to do is open the static mesh, and inside the static mesh editor, just change this metal, which is the white frame of it, to just search steel, and you can just use the default steel that comes with Unreal Engine. And for the glass, you can use just an emissive material, so something that's got like a very bright warm color to it, maybe something like this. Okay, and we get something like this. Now of course the lamp is too big, so I'm going to scale this down a little bit. And then we can use our unlit mode to place this lamp wherever we want it to. So in my case, I'm going to kind of place it in the shed, in the workshop. So maybe maybe up here. Maybe this person has a lamp because he can't work in the evening. It's too dark in our world. So maybe there's a little lamp up here as well. Okay, now within the lamp, it's not a good idea to completely rely on just lumen. You're not going to get much mileage with these lamps. So let's put a point light in there. Now there's a shortcut for point lights. If you hold L and click, this creates a point light. So I'm just going to go take this point light and kind of put it inside that lamp. Okay, like this. And that looks pretty okay. In the outliner, I'm going to click and drag the point light and put it underneath the lantern. So now when I move the lantern, the point light moves as well. So you can see if I was to click on this lantern and move it, the point light would move as well. The point light is still a little bright now. So we're just going to increase this source radius over here to maybe 25, just so we get some softer shadows from it. Maybe let's bring it down a little bit. Some softer shadows over here. And then I'm also going to change the color of this. We can just use the same settings we used earlier, 0.5. And I am going to make this light a little dimmer. So maybe something like this. Okay, so that's what we get. Let's see what that looks like in our camera. So you can see now we're showing off more details here. The other place I think we could place a light is, I'm just going to shift select both of them and alt and drag, and let's maybe put one over here as well, so people can see they don't hit the wall when they are exiting or entering this other area. So we have one lantern here, and then maybe we could put one over here. Okay, so yeah, that concludes the major part of this. We've gone and put together an environment in Unreal Engine very quickly, and that's the main component of this. I think there's just one or two areas that I would recommend, things that you could do to improve. One thing would be you could use a cable actor, because these lamps are kind of suspended in 3D space now. You can use this cable actor to make wires in Unreal. So if you just drag and drop the cable actor in there, rotate it 90, just spin one side of this to wherever this string that's holding the lamp is, and then with the cable actor selected, you can go all the way down, and this end location over here defines where the cable is what it's tied against. So I can have it here, and then this cable length defines how the cable sags. So if I increase the length, it'll sag a little bit more, and then I can also reduce the width to something like 2. And so the end result is something like this. Let's just rotate it over, just kind of hang it from that wire there. Then I can also do the same. You can see it adds a little bit of detail here. I can also do the same with the other side over here. So let's just alt and drag this over, and then again, just the end location, I'm just going to pin it up against the wall there, and then maybe 350 or 400. A little bit of sag in the cable, and then let's rotate this by 90 and suspend our lamp from this cable like this. Okay, so this is the final product, and I'm just going to have one last look at it and see what it looks like. We can add a little bit of shine here to these tiles. This piece can have a little bit of shine in it that generally will make it look, or may make it look, a little nicer. To do that, what we can do is just bring up this street cobblestone material, which is the material used on this particular scan. And what you can do is you can click on max roughness and just use a lower value. So something like 0.4 or 0.3. So you can see now we're getting some reflections as well on these tiles. Maybe they're polished. So you can see something like this as well. I'm trying to think what else we could possibly squeeze into this. I don't like that white background over there. So what we could do with that white background is maybe just add some very, very primitive geometry back out there, just to kind of fill in the scene. So I'm just going to use a cone. Maybe we can make some castle towers. Just use a cylinder underneath this cone, reduce it. So the key thing is here not to be perfect, just have fun with Unreal. And I'm just trying to highlight what you can do with MegaScans when just thrown on a scene, and then you slowly build towards it with using a scale reference. Let's make this a little taller. So you've got these castle over here. Select both of them, Control G to group them. And then what you can do is use any black material. Black because we want it to kind of stand out against the fog, right? So let's move this all the way back here. And then let's go find our camera. So I've got my camera. I'm just going to pin the camera here so I can see what the camera sees. And then let's see where this asset is. So it's a little high. Maybe one back here. It's a little higher. And then one over here also. It's a little lower. So something like that back there. Let's go back into our camera. And the last thing we're going to do, I've probably said this a few times, but the last thing we're going to do is change the depth of field. So click on your Cine Camera actor and navigate over to focus settings. And the minimum you can set this to is 1.5. So it's absolutely blurred out here. And then we can slowly increase this where only the things closer to the camera are in focus, and we get something like this. So that background is blurred. We have all this detail over here. And then you can, of course, go and change this as much as you want. You can also add some of those plants that you downloaded, the scans over here. These can be used to put little bushes that may exist on the floor here. You can also add some assets over here. This area is looking a little empty, so you can add some more assets over here. But ultimately, because this is a third-person demo, so once you're done with your scene, decorating it, lighting it, you can hit the play button and you can walk around your scene. I can see my computer absolutely chugging there for a second, but yeah, you can walk around your scene, see it all work, come together. And of course, we didn't add anything back there because this was meant to be more a cinematic scene than a gameplay level. But anyway, I hope you've learned something, and let us know in the comments what you thought about it, and I will see you in the next one.